And we're back. That was a little bit of 17 going under by Sam Fender, and now we have our guest for this evening in Christopher Pucillo. How you doing, mate?
Great, thanks, buddy. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I know it's a bit of an effort being down in Rockingham and stuff like that, and you've just come from the city. You were just on the Gong Show.
Yeah, at the Comedy Lounge, and it's annoying because I live in Lake Coogee, which is like sort of 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's not too far
Road.
away, but yeah, up to Perth and then back down. It's a pretty big round trip, you know, so I definitely appreciate the effort. How was it tonight? How's the Gong Show going?
Yeah, great little crowd. Comedy Lounge is, it's sort of the premier comedy destination in Perth.
Yeah.
And they do this little thing on Thursday where it's like an audience vote, so you got to last 3 minutes. The audience can put up plates. They can kick you off stage if you're shit.
Yeah, right.
I didn't ask about swearing. Are we allowed?
No, yeah, you're all right. We're the late show and stuff like that, so I should just put up a little bit of a language warning and say that, not intentionally, but you might get a couple of minor M-rated words here and there as we have it. It's just a casual chat on community radio, late night, you know, so I don't want to feel like you have to censor yourself too much. Obviously, we won't let any of the really bad ones slip, but it is what it is, just having a casual chat with Chris. So, yeah, man, sometimes people put their plates up and that could be shit, eh?
Yeah, real hit to the ego, I have to tell you. It's the only show that makes me look super nervous every time.
Yeah, it's sort of that instant reaction from the crowd, instant feedback sort of thing, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And you can sort of do it fairly often, so you can use it to try new material and that, and you get instant feedback.
Yeah, right.
You can be instantly rejected, and you're like, well. And that's sort of how comedy goes, you know. It's just a numbers game. You write more terrible jokes than you write good jokes, unfortunately.
Yeah, a little bit of trial and error sort of comes into it, I suppose, and just got to read the room and wait for feedback and leave it out of your act if it's no good. And
yeah, you got to suffer a lot, unfortunately, to get there in the end, but it's worth it in the end.
Did you ever come across like unexpected gold, where you just like have a random idea of a joke and you just think, I'll throw it out there and see if it gains any traction, and it turns out to be a hit that you go back to time and time again?
Yeah, that's where all the best stuff comes. Like, because you can sort of practice writing jokes.
Yeah.
Because jokes come in, there's like a lot of structure to jokes, so it's actually quite boring and academic a lot of the time. You know, you have your like rules of three or your switches or your.
So you can write jokes by numbers.
Essentially, but they're always crap.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But what you're doing is training yourself to recognize those situations or when they arise organically, so you can capture, like the organic funny stuff, which is the real gold, And
improv and stuff like that. Do you do much improv and stuff? And
not really.
No, yeah.
No, I've got a kid and a partner.
Yeah.
So I really use all my going out tokens on comedy. Like, I don't really do anything else.
Yeah, right, got ya. Yeah,
There's
that's sort of what I'm like with the radio. Yeah, same, man. So, cool. And how many nights a week would you perform then? You sound like a pretty busy guy.
Yeah, I try to get out 3 minimum.
Yeah.
Just to get on stage. Like, I don't leave the house unless I'm getting on stage, really. Like, very seldomly, unless it's to watch like a real professional act or do a bit of networking. But even that, I'm not as good as I should be, It is show business after all. So, like, you live and die by your network and the friendships you can make and the relationships you can build.
Yeah.
But I think at our level, when you're just sort of starting out, I've only been at it for maybe 2.5, 3 years now, seriously.
Yeah, right.
So you got to have an act to sell, really, before you start trying to network and ingratiate yourself.
So what were you doing before comedy?
I was.
Let's turn that off. I think I'm getting a little bit of feedback from that fan. But sorry. You before comedy? Yeah.
That's all good. I was working in the comms industry, man. I was a supervisor for a company and a comms tech, and I was just in mining, doing a little bit of FIFO here and there.
Yeah, right.
And I had something of a bit of a mental breakdown.
Right.
Myself, so on brand, I guess.
Yeah.
And then to quit that, realized that I sort of had to do comedy, and that was like a pretty demanding job. So just like 10, 11, 12 hours a day, going away. And at the end of the day, I mean, like, I just, my heart wasn't in it. I just wasn't in it, I found comedy, which was something that I loved and something that I felt like I was sort of driven to do, like it was almost a purpose. So I had to pursue that. Like, I had to
do something more than the day-to-day sort of thing. And
despite how much I tried to like intellectualize the importance of my day job,
Yeah.
I mean, it is important. Money's important. Status is important. All that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
like, my heart wasn't in it. Like, I could not care about it as much as I cared about comedy.
If your
So, like,
heart's not in it, eventually it's going to take its toll on you mentally. So
yeah. So I actually burst into tears in a meeting awkwardly.
really,
Yeah, it was quite a thing.
wow, really hit that sort of critical sort of moment, and that was the turning point for you.
Yeah, it was.
And was it hard to go from that to then getting on stage? I mean, a lot of people would look at getting on stage and talking to a room full of people as pretty extreme.
Well, no, it was sort of a gradual build-up. So, like, I'd done a little bit of comedy loosely in, like, 2015, 2016 through a community organization in Geraldton called the Laugh Emporium, which I don't think is there anymore. I think it's called the Emporium Creative, and they focus more on community arts projects. But there's an amazing dude up there called Julian Canny, who runs arts programs, and he was running that, and I was in the country on a tourist visa at the time. My partner had citizenship, so we were busy applying for visas for me.
Yeah.
And I was just looking for opportunities to volunteer, and he put out a call for guys to come and help out with the comedy show, be on the door and help out.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, and I responded to that, and then we just had a bit of banter, and he said, well, look, dude, you seem like quite a funny guy, come down, we do this writers group, we do these regional showcases. So I did that for a while, maybe a couple shows, 6, 7, and then we left Geraldton, because I was, working on the NBN as well at the same time.
Yep.
And it came to an end in Geraldton, so I kind of just lost touch with it. I didn't realize, like, what a vital a cog in my mental health machine, that creative outlet
absolutely.
was.
Yeah, give you a creative outlet and get you away from... And how long had you been doing sort of comms tech for?
I just sort of started it up there, so it had been a couple of years. So, like, I was always sort of a little bit artsy. Like, I did an arts degree, and I was just I was always faffing around with writers groups and poetry nights and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah.
To varying degrees of success, but comedy really gripped me. So yeah, I was always floating around that, and then but when you leave a situation where I guess the opportunities are situational, like, it never occurred to me that I could just go and do comedy, or that I could make something happen, And then so we lived in Bustleton for a couple of years, then came back to Perth, and I just got sort of darker and darker and angrier and more and more miserable, and tried antidepressants for a while, but eventually, like, I had a reasonably good therapist who said to me, like, when did you last do something for yourself? And I said, well, what do you mean? I pay the mortgage, like, we do schoolwork, I do loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Sometimes just relieving the stress of paying the mortgages feels like that's what you need to do. But you really need to take time for yourself. So
yeah, well, you need to do something that, like, nourishes your soul, right? Like, paying the mortgage doesn't feed
doesn't
your
feed the soul.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
As important as it is, So yeah, and then I thought back to that sort of time in sort of 2016, I think it was.
You're up in Geraldton.
Yeah, so that's really the last time that I sort of felt like, alive. So I started doing open mics, and then, one a fortnight turned into one a week, turned into 2 a week, and then because when you start out, you're terrible. Let's be honest. Everyone is horrible.
Yeah. Of course, you got to fight through those bad nights to get some good and stuff. But when do you just throw yourself in the deep end and just start scouting out for open mic nights and stuff? Or
yeah, so that's exactly what happened. I just went online. I found a couple. There was a little company called, what can I say? Company very loosely. A little organization called Flying Camel.
Yep.
That used to do open mics up at the Bassendean, and there was one at the Billabong at the Maori Black Brewery.
Right.
Just real horrible, like, people be brewing beer downstairs, bottles clanging around, closing garage doors, and you're on stage, trying to tell jokes to 3 mechanics who have no idea what comedy is. They're just having a beer, and it's like real character building shit.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You got to do those gigs and stuff, and hecklers and stuff like that. Do you get your fair share of hecklers along the way, or have you found it's been pretty cruisy?
It's been quite chilled for me. No, I say chilled, but I just don't really invite hecklers.
Yeah.
There are a lot of guys who seek them out, or they act as more conversational So yeah, just ever since I started, I've been more like written, scripted, telling actual jokes, you know.
Yeah, right.
So it doesn't really invite hecklers because you kind of got to follow along or pay attention, you know. I guess I have had the odd one, and you just got to sort of roll with it, you know. When you start out, you start doing the it's like a real beginner move. You just attack them aggressively, you know.
Yep.
But
I've seen that. I've actually seen that at the Gong Show. Like you mentioned, someone lifted up a plate, and the comedian that was on at the time just said, "How dare you lift a plate? Put it back down and just attack the heckler." You know, I was like, "Wow."
There's all sorts of tricks and tips. There was an Asian guy tonight, and he was saying something, and then the guy he's saying something about him being Asian, and a guy put up a plate, and the plates are yellow. He goes, "Yeah, you're correct, sir. Yellow, that's right."
Yeah, right. Work with it and stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah. So you start to sort of learn tricks and tips because I think, it's the least creative option is to attack them.
Yeah.
It's like the more creative thing would be to try and like actually address their concern,
get another laugh out of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, something. Just try something.
Just look at it in a different way, which is what comedians, I suppose, do, is just look at your average life situations in a different way and get a laugh out of it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, they're a customer, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they're like filling in a customer complaint form or like the comedic version of it, you know?
So yeah, right.
Let's take it seriously. What is your actual problem? What do you want? What is going on? And like, how does this complaint reflect on you in your life? What are you not tolerating? What are you bottling up? Like, you know, you can just try and tease them in more subtle ways, I think.
And especially these days with cancel culture and stuff, everybody does, like you say, get a little bit offended sometimes by things. Is it a hard ground to navigate, sort of being politically correct and being worried about cancel culture these days?
I don't think so, if I'm going to be honest. I don't think so at all. Because, like everyone... I guess you get your ideologues on both sides, like right-wing people who are angry about trans rights or LGBT, and then like on the other side, like wild left-wing people who are furious about abortion and all this. But I think those are like the outer fringes of society, you know, like the vast majority, like those are the outer 1%.
That's actually what I talk about a lot of the time, is they're the extremes of both categories, and the majority of people are normally down the middle.
Yeah,
you know?
and then so for those people who are in the middle, you know when someone's being an arsehole, right? You know when the direction of someone's joke, whether it's just mean, regardless of subject matter, it's mean or it's not, you know. And even some of the mean jokes.
Their intention behind it and stuff like that. You can sort
definitely.
Of get a feel
Intent is like, you know, 9/10 of the law, in my opinion. Even though the sort of vogue right now in moral thinking is that your consequences are more important.
Yeah.
You know, intentions matter less, but I just don't think there's any way to live, you know.
Yeah. I think there's almost like a pushback with comedians now, like cancel culture and stuff. Like, some of them are sort of pushing back and like, go on, cancel me, you know. Like, they're sort of pushing back at that crowd that wants and like, it's almost like if they've been cancelled, they wear it as a badge of honour. You know, like, I was a little bit risky and stuff like that, and someone cancelled me over nothing. And if they come out the other side and they're still good and their career's not completely cancelled, if they go through that sort of the trials and tribulations of that, they come out the other side and almost like Teflon, you know, they've got a sort of feeling of like nothing can stick to them, you know, so it's like a badge of honour for them. So, it's definitely interesting. But where do you draw most of your comedy from? What's your inspiration for it?
Probably family, I guess. I write a lot about being a parent, being a partner, being South African. You know, you got to have an angle. I think that probably that's what a lot of that cancel culture malarkey is all about, is people trying to generate an angle for themselves. It's all marketing at the end of the day. But yeah, that's where it comes from, basically. I'm quite a dark dude as well. Yeah? Yeah, I just have a sort of a morbid, odd, dark sense of humour. Probably just from growing up... in South Africa, where it was, you know, I was mugged a bunch of times. We had housebreakings. You know, the spectre of like violent crime was always sort of like hovering on the outskirts, you know.
Wow. I mean, I joke about Rockingham being the ghetto, but I've never actually been mugged. You legitimately got mugged a few times in South Africa growing up.
Yeah, of course. We had stuff stolen all the time. And then it would be like little things, you know, like it would just sit on the periphery of your life, like...
Yeah.
It's like a funny story, because when I was growing up, right, when I was really young, my mom was like a receptionist, my dad was like a factory worker in Toyota, you know, so like we would be like maybe like lower middle class, maybe lower class even, like, you know, Rockingham area, but because it's South Africa, we just had this whole group of like extremely poor, like of black people, I guess, like, you know, that were like, so we had like a maid like once a week or twice a week, even though we were like
middle sort of lower class in that sort of
environment, which is quite a trip out to think about. Like my dad did study an economics degree, and then we got an MBA, like all part time while he was working. He was coming home studying nights. So like we kind of went up the societal socioeconomic ladder, I guess. But yeah, so we were like broken into, and then like our maid would like be our maid for a year and then disappear, you know, and then like you'd make inquiries with other maids, and it would be like, oh, she's in prison there, or she died of AIDS there, or, you know, like stuff like that would happen. And like as a kid, you don't really, you kind of take it in subconsciously. Like your environment's just your environment, it's what you know, right? So like you're just like, oh, that's just part of what's happening, or like this person gets TB, or that person gets AIDS, or, you know, it's just like,
there's serious stuff that kids growing up here just have no idea about. It's like I've got a mate, a Dib, who grew up in Syria, and he's in his 50s now, so he grew up in Syria, and he tells me when he was growing up in Syria, if people did wrong, they were hung in the streets, you know, and it was like, that just blows people's minds these days, you know, and dealing with those sorts of issues, like you're saying, people that you know just getting TB or AIDS or disappearing and stuff like that, and
but it wouldn't have been really even like my group of friends, like, you know, not my like socioeconomic,
someone that you know directly,
people, just like just the extreme poor,
right.
And like people like my grandparents had like factories, and then like their workers would sort of disappear, but you'd get to know them because you'd hang out there after school, you know, and then but crime does affect, like one of my sister's boyfriends was stabbed in the leg. He got him in the artery, he just bled out, and it was over a watch, like while he was walking to school one day.
Bled out, died?
Yeah, stone dead.
Far out, man.
Rest in peace, Ben,
over
I guess.
A watch?
Yeah.
How old
Tried
was
to
he?
steal his watch. 16.
Far out. That's hectic. And what is that? Is that just because the economy over there or something like that has just created so much poverty that people are turning to extremes to get by?
Yeah, something like that. I don't really know, man. I haven't lived there for, 10, 12 years, so I don't know. But when I was there, there was just a large group of the population that are just in, I think they call it static poverty. So like they have no hope of ever getting out of poverty, and it's like a huge percentage of the population, like 30-40%.
Wow.
So it's like it breeds a lot of desperate situations, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like even like you guys, it's funny to come over here because you see the guys like who move money around.
Yeah.
Have you seen those guys in the armored vehicles or whatever? And it'll be like some overweight dude, and he's just sort of toddling along. He's got a little gun on his hip. But in South Africa, like they rob those guys like in the most insane ways. Like they'll hijack a truck, park it at a hill, and then when none of those vans come past, they'll just T-bone it with the truck. And then like plant explosives, blow it open, and then just spray bullets, like kill everyone and take. You know, it's like insane. It's like the wild.
Yeah. And what, is there no consequences for their actions, or they're just
very little? But also like life is cheap, right? So like you can live a gangster's life and you know have money, influence, power, or you can like labor in the mines or something. That's if you can get a job, or you can clean like some rich person's garden and have peanuts for your whole life. So like, what are you going to do if you got no hope, no opportunities? Why not?
They look forward to gang life and having that chance of
something. Yeah, and unfortunately, like the government has just basically stolen every bit of hope that the country ever had.
Is that like corrupt governments and stuff like that?
So thoroughly corrupt, it's unbelievable.
Hear about that in Ukraine at the moment. Like a lot of the aid and stuff that they're getting has been taken by government officials and stuff, and that's why Zelensky's fired a lot. So,
look, I don't want to disparage corruption, mate. I'm
a good bit of healthy corruption, you know. Everybody needs a good bit of healthy corruption.
Yeah, I'm just pissed off that I'm not on the take as well.
On the receiving end,
if any corrupt officials need an assistance or someone to help collect money, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. Hit me up on my socials.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So you're saying you sort of bring a bit of that life history has put a bit of a dark spin on your comedy?
Yeah, for sure. Just a dark spin on my sense of humour, you know?
Yeah. Like a sort of cynical outlook and stuff like that?
Oh, mate, every day I'm trying to desperately to stave off bitter cynicism. That's to swallow me. Yeah. Definitely, man. Definitely can be a bit snarky and a bit cynical, but yeah, if you sell it with a big wolf's grin, then they believe you're a sheep.
And how's it going? You've been doing it for a couple of years now, you said. So are you getting sort of good traction and stuff, and you feel like you've worked your way through some of those dingy bars that you used to work at, and you...
Oh, no, I'm not above a dingy bar, but it's going pretty well. If I'm honest with you, it's getting there, mate. Always filed under more work, needs more work. My socials are terrible, so I need to pull my finger out there.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. You see some guys that post constantly, and do you feel pressure to sort of keep posting to stay relevant and stuff like that?
Well, not really pressure, mate. It's just part of the job in the modern era. Like I had overheard a conversation where some woman was talking to her friend about her child recently. She was like, she's really creative. Like, I think she should go into marketing or something like this. And the friend said, does she have any social media? And she goes, oh, no, we haven't allowed her to have a phone. And I was like, that's just the most insane. Like, all of marketing is social media now, driven, So it's just part of the job.
Yeah. It's almost like just free guerrilla marketing, and the more time that they invest in it, the more reach they can get and stuff. So
yeah, and the better you get at it, and it's just part of your job, like you have to just do it.
Yeah.
But that's this, I guess, the transition that you have to make from being like a keen amateur to being a professional who when you're an amateur, you just do these wild jokes that you like, but when you're a professional and someone's paying you to do it, you have to be consistent, know. So it's making that transition,
And how you go? Are you getting paid gigs and stuff yet?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Yeah, I got doing a weekend at the Comedy Lounge on I think it's 17th, 18th of next month.
Of next month, coming up at the Comedy Lounge.
Yeah, that'll be pretty cool. I'm going up to Karratha the weekend before that to do some gigs. Shout out to Boomtown Comedy that sort of organised that.
Boomtown Comedy.
Yeah, they run out in Broome.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, there's a tiny comedy club that meets up in Broome.
Yeah, right.
I run this comedy club. We run a comedy
Port City Comedy.
Yeah, Port City Comedy every Wednesday in Frio. $10 starts.
So that's you networking with a few other comedians and stuff like that.
Yeah, myself and another guy, Tyrone King. We run that, and as interest rates bite and inflation's insane, dude. It's the best entertainment you're gonna get for $10, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, good point.
It's a good time. Yeah.
Cost of living's going up, So, and is that a regular gig and stuff that you're doing?
Every Wednesday, yeah. Every Wednesday at 8. So we have new lineups, different lineups. Some of the city's best comedians coming down to just trash it out, work it out. But that's the thing, nobody's gonna give it to you. You got to go out and make your own stage time, chase your own stuff, So that's why we set up this club. We're looking at a few other areas, trying to think about where we can set up rooms, because this has been quite successful. We've been running since June last year.
Yeah, right.
And we sold out every show in December, the first couple in Jan, the last couple in November.
Far out.
Yeah, it's been a bit of we took a break over Fringe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, have you been a part of any Fringe shows or anything? But
yeah, I did maybe 40, 45 shows over Fringe.
Really?
Yeah, 45 spots, yeah.
Far out.
There's a great venue in the centre of the city called Convenience, I think. Yeah, there's an organisation called Grassroots Comedy.
I've heard of that one, yeah.
Yeah, they run a night every Tuesday called Experimental Comedy Club, but they during Fringe they just ran a whole bunch of shows there, so I did a lot of spots there.
Awesome.
MC'd one or two shows out in Leaderville. Yeah, ran shows at our spot. It was good.
And how long is Fringe wrapped up now? How long does Fringe go for? So Fringe is all done now?
It goes for like 4.5 weeks. So it starts on a Friday and ends on a Sunday.
Oh, right. Got ya.
So 5 weekends, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was good.
And I think a lot of the guys are going over to Adelaide Fringe now. Is that right?
Yeah, they sure are. But I'm not, because I was just a little disorganised. And also... I don't know, you're just not quite ready yet to tour it,
Yeah, and still with the day job and stuff like that as well. So
yeah, so that's a funny story. I went from like the construction industry to working for an NDIS provider, like being a support worker for
Yeah, right. That's exactly what we do here. We've got NDIS next door and stuff. And
yeah, I saw that when I came in. I thought, going back to work in the middle of the night.
Yeah, right. I'm pretty sure the guy that runs this place and created this place, Tris, does a lot of work with the NDIS.
I work for a company called Active Foundation. Yeah, it's just supporting.
And what does that do?
Oh, we just do community access. So they do a great many things. They have, I don't know, in Rockingham, they've got the business hub here, so they provide supported employment.
Right.
They do housing, supported accommodation, heaps of stuff. But I just work in the community access.
Right. And
Taking guys swimming, taking guys, on hikes, bowling.
Just get them out and about and make them feel like they're still part of the community and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, cool. And do you have regular clients with that, or is it?
Yeah, I have a few regular clients, and then because we're like a big hub, you go, then you're just assigned to like groups to go play basketball or bowling or.
Oh right, so they'll get a few of you together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So sometimes it's big groups, and sometimes it's one-on-one. Just depends on the particular client and their needs,
Yeah. And how's that going? You're saying sort of getting out of the comtech and stuff helped a lot with your sort of mental health and sort of expressing yourself through comedy. And how's the career change gone with your mental health and stuff? Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
It's I really am. It's just so rich, so rewarding, Just, it's just a great job. I kind of feel again like I was sort of maybe I just have an aptitude for it.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather's brother Victor had Down syndrome in South Africa, and he just stayed in a home, and like the prevailing attitude there was just sort of like all of these people, like disabled people, should be with their own kind. So they just kind of parked them in a home, and it was like great, they had
they looked after
room,
and stuff like that, but they're sort of segregated from society.
You're there, and we went and visited him and took him stuff, but we never took him out. He never came to lunch with us. He was never in public with us,
Wow.
So that was, and now obviously, especially with the social model of disabilities, where they try to treat the extent of a person's disability as the extent to which society excludes them by how it's set up I don't even know where I was going with that point, but it's just a much more inclusive model, So you see disabled people all over the shop, like more food courts knocking around,
making it more accessible for them and stuff like that, whether they're in wheelchairs or crutches or whatever it is, just
exactly
making it more inclusive and stuff. So no, that's cool, man. And I suppose you get that sort of the same with comedy, like you're saying, you get that instant feedback and stuff. Like obviously with your clients now, they must be stoked when you arrive to take them out for the day and stuff like that. It's not like working in construction industry and stuff like that, where you just do your job, go home, and sometimes you won't even see the client or even get any feedback from your job. It's just your job's done. So that instant feedback in both comedy and working in the NDIS must be sort of gratifying,
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you used that word actually, because gratitude is such a big part of your mental health. I think you can change your whole outlook by just being grateful for things, approaching things with a sense of gratitude, everything in your life, which is probably I don't want to blame like the construction industry for my I just was really down, and just I let it go, let it all go. So I guess there's a lot of people that work in construction, right? They're not all depressed,
Yeah.
So it was just my particular set of circumstances. Maybe I did forget to feel a bit of gratitude, but I was also not really cut out for it at the end of the day.
Maybe you just sort of need that human interaction and stuff in what you do in work, and to sort of feel like what you do is relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
sure. I mean, now I just bounce into work, it's just all sounds 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 into work, I don't hang out with my kid as much as I should, actually, but she's 13, so it's
it's different with age.
But that's no excuse either, so.
Yeah, it's hard, and 13-year-olds these days and stuff, all about bloody the Kardashians and stuff like that. It's just, it's hard to find things that we're sort of, I've got a 14-year-old as well, so...
girl, boy?
Yeah, I've got a 14-year-old girl, 9-year-old boy, 7-year-old girl.
Really, dude. Actually, that beard was a clue. You are a fertile man, definitely.
Yeah, and a slow learner. Trying to... I mean, we still have a good laugh and stuff, and I get time with my daughter when I drop her off at school, or we'll have a laugh about things and stuff, but trying to get those subjects that we're both interested in is hard sometimes, because... she's still learning and trying to get my kids to focus on schooling instead of making sure she's wearing the right shoes or has the right look and stuff like that. Is always a battle, but
Sure. Have you given her a phone and that sort of thing?
Yeah, she's got her phone and stuff like that, and constant arguments about that's enough phone time now and stuff like that.
Yeah, you should download a program called Google Link.
Yeah, what's that?
You can just basically take over her phone.
Oh, really?
It's set screen time, so it just turns off after 2. It's like we've set up. It's time. Once her time's up, it goes off.
Yeah, right.
There's no real question of too much phone time, and then so she has to learn to budget her time.
Yep.
So it gives her a bit of an ethos where she just checks it in the morning, turns it off. Then
so it gives them a certain amount of time to use each day, and whether they use that all in the morning or a little bit in the morning, a little bit at night, they use it up. That's it.
Shuts out, and then even like time wise, so you can say like you've got 2 hours or whatever, an hour. And then, but like 7:30, the phone just shuts off because it's now time to start winding down.
Yeah, right. Things would get wild if the phone just shut down at 7:30.
I saw this great thing when it was like, some mum had like left a note on her fridge. It was like, in order to get today's Wi-Fi password, send a photo of a clean kitchen to mum.
Right.
Yeah, and I thought that was
clever.
So good. I was like, please put a box of cookies next to the stove so that I can know this is today's photo.
Today's photo. Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, to get the chores done. That'll get the chores done. And so, what plans moving forward and stuff? Just sort of working on your show that you got going at the moment at Port City, or?
Yeah, that's just like a sort of an open mic night. I did a show during Fringe with a wonderful comedian and good friend of mine named Jill Cordner.
Yeah.
She's doing some amazing things. She won Comedy Lounge's Comedian of the Year last year.
Oh,
she
really?
They had a sort of a competition called the Funniest Five. She won that as well.
Far out.
Couple of grand. Yeah, she's just a great egg. Good, real inspiration. Couple of years ahead of me, but we did a split show, so like half an hour each,
Oh, wow.
Which was all right during Fringe. We did a couple of great shows, so we want to try and work on that, develop that, get that out there.
Half an hour each, that's a pretty long set, considering the Gong Show like you did tonight goes, 3 to 5 minutes or something?
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, so 3 minutes and then music plays and then you made it through.
Wow.
And then in the end, they get everyone on stage and then they line them up and you can cheer for your favourite.
Yeah.
And they decide who wins,
About 30 minutes, you must chew through a bit of material in 30 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, but it's also like if you it's not like a club set. Like a club set is like a comedy club. It's a comedy savvy audience, so they know what you're doing. So you've got to really like hammer them, or that's what my approach is anyway. But like when you've got time, especially a Fringe audience, they're like they're a bit more indulgent of the story.
Yeah,
they come out to see some art really more than they want to be like punched in the face by constant jokes.
Yeah, right.
So you've got time to like open, expand, get a narrative arc going, it's not just chasing the lols the whole time, even though that is the point of comedy.
And then you can do cutbacks to previous jokes and sort of tie stuff together, and you've got time to work on all that structure and stuff. Yeah, right. And have you got any sort of stories in the bag that you just know are gold and that you can go to, or do you have to always be evolving and changing your stories? So
well, it's good to always be writing.
Yeah.
So I try to write every day. I do less stories, but I have some wild stories from South Africa, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Like my first sexual encounter, for example.
Yep.
Warning, this is gonna get a tiny bit graphic, but I was with a girl on a beach. She was giving me a blowjob, and we got mugged in the middle of it by
mugged in the middle of a blowjob.
Yeah, dude, that's how the cookie
Far
crumbles.
out.
Very first, and it was quite serious.
That's just opportunist. They got you when you're at your most vulnerable.
On the beach, dude, but just idiots, dude. Teenagers.
Yeah.
The beach at night, it's full of homeless people. Come on, what do you think is gonna happen? And it was knives and stole my wallet, belt. It was quite serious.
Really?
Yeah, it was quite a horrific experience at the time. But I've got a great bit out of it, so worth it.
That's alright. Did you ever get to finish the blowjob?
No, man. I mean, it was
far out. You got robbed of your wallet, your belt, and a blowjob all at the same time.
Yeah, that's a great line. Actually, I should write that down.
Cool. Yeah. Far out. Sounds like you got a few good stories. And how old were you when you left South Africa?
About 22, I'd say.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I went to the UK for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and popped
And
over
did
to
you
us.
ever do any sort of comedy or anything like that over there, or any sort of performing, or
No, no, no. I just took a lot of drugs, drank a lot, and partied. That
really?
was the UK for you. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Good party scene.
Yeah, it was good. Like I was in a house with maybe anywhere between 6 to like 14 South Africans, depending on the day of the week. It was like,
Wow.
yeah, you could wake up and our whole lounge would be covered in people, or like, a party would be happening at the back, and then
Yeah.
people coming in and out, going to work. It was just wild.
What are you doing for work? What's funding all the drugs and the partying?
I was doing anything and everything. So like I had a couple of fingers in different pies. Like I worked for a few agencies where you'd be like a glassy, I suppose you'd call it here.
Yeah.
Or like they would do like mobile events and you'd serve canapes and do dishes and shit like that. And then like I had a couple of other jobs on the like London Underground where you'd go and you'd be like trades assistants for whoever. Like so one day you could be trades assistant for a tiler, and then you could
Yeah,
be
right.
chipping tiles and mixing screed and hauling shit around.
Yeah.
Or you could be a trade assistant for an electrician, and they'd say like, "Hey, we've got work for 2 weeks at this station for this company," and then you just show up there like often night shifts.
Wow.
So like you'd be like putting your helmet on in your Harvers, leaving the house while a party was raging on.
Far
It's
out.
just like wild chaos, man. Yeah,
Good times, eh?
yeah, absolutely. Like just the best times.
Yeah,
Just take
right.
it for granted. I wish I did more travel, but at the end of the day, we just had such good times that like who gives a fuck.
And what made you finally made you decide to settle down in Australia?
Wow, it's just a long and complicated story, but like my partner, who is the mother of my child, we together now. We're actually getting married, and she's a real gem. Shout out to Shireen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting married next year.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but we actually conceived our child like on the night that she immigrated. So
Right.
it wasn't like sort of planned type thing. It
Yeah.
was like a little surprise. So she stayed here, and I sort of went to Cape Town, finished my degree, and then I had plans to go to England. So she was like kind of up in there. I was in England for 2 years, and she was here, and she was.
Wow.
So then eventually we met up, and we were like, hey, okay, guess we had all this unfinished business.
Yeah.
Attraction remained, and then we just sort of worked out a plan to get me here, and we've been together sort of ever since, really.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
And is the plan to sort of go full-time comedy eventually? Is that going to be enough to support the family and yourself, obviously?
Oh, my partner supports the family. She's a corporate job, so she does the 9 to 5, and I do the kids' school drop-offs, and I work, like I said,
yeah.
school hours and try and do as much comedy as possible. The long answer is, or the short answer is, yes, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's really tough in WA, really competitive. So
Really?
yeah, there's like probably about I'd say 300, 350 open mic comedians.
Wow.
So, but that's everyone from like part-timers to
guys that are doing it every night of the week.
that are trying to hustle, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So there's probably maybe, no, I don't even know if there would be any people making a living solely of comedy in Perth. Maybe
Right.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
But everyone's got day jobs and side hustles.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's such a beautiful variety. Yeah, you got like
How many
tattoo
venues was that? I didn't actually realise how big it was until I started doing this gig and reaching out to local comedians and stuff. But
So
there's
you got
quite a few venues, eh?
Yeah, and it's just in tiers really. So you got like the Comedy Lounge, which is like an actual comedy club,
Yeah.
which is amazing. They've just opened a new venue in Freo.
Freo, yeah, that's opening this weekend, or
Yeah,
yeah, I've seen that popped up on my Facebook feed and stuff like that. So.
yeah. And then there's sort of another one that's in the Brisbane Hotel
Yeah.
off Beaufort Street, I think it is, called Oasis Comedy Club.
Oh,
And
right.
it's run by a dude called Brendan, who has just so many like connections because he lived in Melbourne for years. So he gets these like real top tier comics, and the room's like great, a big theatre room.
Yeah.
And so those are the two sort of top tier ones. Then there are a load of like really reputable open mic shows, like the Fremantle Factory on a Thursday, Mar Show on a Wednesday, that one in the City on Tuesday, the Gong Show. There's one at the Windmill in South Perth on Friday
Yeah,
nights.
I've heard about the Windmill, yeah.
Windmill Comedy Club. Shout out to Nakanto who runs that.
Yeah,
So
cool.
then there's those gigs, and then there's like a whole plethora of suburban gigs. You know, there's one at Sandbar in Scarborough that a good mate of mine, Shash, runs.
Right.
I'm going to be there on the 15th if anyone's keen.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, get down and check it out.
Tilly's Garden. It's just they're all over. You know, people do, and then there's like the regional things. So people go out to Kalgoorlie or Karratha or Exmouth or whatever.
Yep.
So there's a lot of it around, and then there's like corporate work, which I don't really get involved in, but I probably should try and get involved in. But
yeah, right. What sort of corporate work is that? Where they have corporate functions and they'll just get a comedian to come up and talk for a little bit and stuff. And
that's it.
right.
So ordinarily they'll want sort of clean comedians.
Yeah.
Because it's like organised by HR and not that I'm particularly like sweary or gross, but I'm just quite dark, you know.
Yeah,
often things die or something.
Yeah, sometimes dark things are funny, eh? Like, I've often said, like, I've got 3 kids, so I'm contributing to the overpopulation problem in the world. But if one of them turns out to be a serial killer, then all of a sudden I'm sort of
you're
part of the solution instead of the problem, you know? So
that exact sort of thing, hey?
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And who was your inspiration and stuff? Like, you're saying you have a bit of dark comedy and stuff. Do you have sort of people that you used to watch growing up, or when you're getting into comedy that you sort of seen as that's sort of inspiration for you? And
I watch a lot of comedy, listen to a lot of comedy, listen to a lot of comedy podcasts. But the first comedy I ever watched was a special by Eddie Izzard called The Definite Article.
It is. I'm sure I've heard that name.
Yeah,
before.
he's a transgender dude. I think now I lose track of what these people are doing. But he was like just a cross-dressing comedian in the 90s. That's what he was sort of known as before the culture developed. But I think he's since come out. But he was just so funny, just so witty, and like bits and pieces of French and bits and pieces of ridiculousness. And then he's talking about Caesar, and then he's talking about Shakespeare, and then he's just so funny. He's But as for the dark stuff, I guess Jeselnik is the clear inspiration. Anthony Jeselnik, if you know him.
Anthony Jeselnik, no, that's not what I'm familiar with.
Yeah, such a hilarious dude. Like, he'll do jokes like, what's one of his jokes? Like, he was at his birthday party, right? And his grandmother had a heart attack.
Yep.
At his birthday party, and it took him years and loads of therapy. But eventually he was able to enjoy birthday parties. He was just a lot more careful about what he wished for when he blew out the candles.
Yeah, right.
Now, I've botched that, but it's fantastic. It's just so good.
Yeah, man. No, that's a good one. Yeah, dark sense of humor, but funny and sort of clever, you know, as well, you know. So it's witty and
and even
sort of
silly
makes you think a
sometimes.
little
Like,
bit.
he had this one liner where it was like, "My mom caught me masturbating with a net."
Right. Just a little bit of random stuff there, but
like insanity. So good, eh?
Cool. And who would be your like favorite people to do a lineup with at the moment? Like, who would you love to have as part of your show that's currently in circulation?
Well, like I said, Jill, man, good friend of mine, great comic, so funny. Another good friend who's on the same. He was on the Gong Show tonight as well. Tabo Chuma, such a funny guy.
Yeah, I've seen Tabo. He does a podcast as well, I think, with Bruno, their Net podcast.
Yeah, I think they've gone their separate ways, but Tabo's keeping it going.
Yep.
But I opened for him at his solo show, this Fringe. It was called Bootleg. And,
he was killing it, eh?
Guy. Yeah, very funny, man.
Yeah, cool.
Honestly, him, my business partner, Tyrone King. Yeah, I can't leave him off that list. I'll never hear the end of it.
Yeah, right. And what's it like around town? Like, you say it's pretty competitive and stuff, but is there much of a network, like comedians work together and stuff like that? And if someone hears about a gig that they can't make, will they let someone like yourself know, or is that?
Yeah, well, so obviously, you know, you have your friends in any industry, and everyone looks after their friends. But yeah, we've got a real great community, real great like sort of grassroots community. Everyone respects everyone, and it's like it's the same thing with any art. I think it's like once you can do it to a certain level, then you start like, you know, unlocking more doors, becoming more friendly, talking to people, you know. Because it's so transient, and because I think a lot of people think they can do comedy. Like, everyone who sits in the audience is like, oh, I could do, you know. I'm funny, and then it's like, so there's a lot of people who are like one-offs and try it, but like once you get into it, it's just really great.
Yeah, if you really enjoy it. And have you ever had those shows where you walk away from and just think like, what am I doing? I never want to get on that stage again. Is it hard to bounce back from some shows?
Plenty of them.
Yeah, right.
Plenty of them. And you have to. Like, that's just, you try new material, you know it's going to suck. You're like, this is going to be horrible. Like, it could, you know. And then you got to go listen back to it and then think, oh, there was a titter there was a laugh there. So there's seeds of something. So you harvest up all those little seeds and then you rework them.
Yeah.
Throw away all the stuff that didn't work. Unless you really believe in it, then you try and rework it again. But that process is just so, like, harrowing. You got to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to try the new material.
Got to have a thick skin sometimes and just go back to the drawing board and not be defeated, but sort of dig in and...
Rinse, right, repeat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I have definitely had gigs where you just go there, you get crickets, they clearly hate you. And you're like, oh, is this worth it? Should I be on the mines paying off the mortgage?
Yeah, right. Never go back. Keep chasing that dream, brother. And do you have any, like, celebrity beef? Is there anything, like, you got other comedians or local guys that you just don't like being in the same set as, or you'll avoid them, or...
No. Not really. I know. I'm an open person. You know. I don't have time for nonsense like that. Honestly, I truly don't. I don't even like hearing people disparaged. Like, he knows he sucked. We know he sucked.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
if a guy's bombed on stage, he really doesn't need other comedians and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny.
He's fully aware that he's bombed.
Yeah, it's funny, but it's also, like, pointless to waste energy on just being negative about people. Like, there's enough to do, right?
Yeah.
There's enough to do without getting distracted by politics and pettiness. And unfortunately, it is there. Like, it is a little cliquey, and some people think they're above their station or below this. They think they... But in my opinion, you just deserve whatever you can go out there and get, you know.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting anything, or if you don't have anything, it's because you're not working hard enough to get it, or you're not working smart enough. So like, calm down, sit down, take a long hard look at yourself, and be better.
Work hard to bring yourself up instead of trying to pull others down to your level and stuff like that.
Sure, be less shit.
Yeah, be less shit. Yeah, it's basically the answer, you know. So sometimes it takes a little bit of work, but
yeah, and it's just a natural human thing, right? Like, so when you start out, you'll be like, oh, I don't want to follow this guy, or how am I going to do this? But now I'm just like, yeah, put me on after the best dude.
Really?
Yeah, and I will probably sink. You know what? But, like, that's the best way, you know. It's just
you got to go up against the best to become the best, I suppose.
Sure, dude. And if I see a guy crushing, I'm like, yes, that's excellent, dude. Well done. Let's all do that. You know, there's enough out there, the par's big enough, you know, that we can all, you know, everyone's different enough that you can find your audience, you know. There's enough success out there that you don't need to take it away from someone else, you know.
Yeah. Do you ever, like, have a bad set and you know the crowd's not in a good space and you wrap up and then there's somebody to go on after you and you just feel bad that they've got to go out to a dead crowd?
I guess, in a way, but not really. Like, when you have a bad set, it's truly, like, it's a real punch in the dick. Because the thing about stand-up is this, right? Like, it doesn't, you see people who do stand-up, they're fat, they're thin, they're old, they're young.
All sorts.
They're gorgeous, they're butt ugly, they've got a fat nose, a thin nose, 2 big ears, whatever. Like, it does not matter.
Yeah.
You know, it's your like brain, it's your soul, it's your words, it's your thoughts. Yeah. So when they reject you, they're rejecting your whole
essence.
Yeah, your essence is getting rejected. So it's brutal.
Yeah, of course.
You know? So you normally just sort of slink away, like, you know, you go take 5 minutes to lick your wounds and feel sorry for yourself, and then get back to work the next day, you know.
Get back out there and dust it off.
But it is soul crushing, yeah, because it is that sort of deep rejection of your personality. So not your looks. No, it doesn't matter. It's the words that you think and the person that you are that we reject.
Yeah, absolutely. That's different to just getting rejected for a superficial reason, stuff like that, eh?
Yeah.
And the sort of formats of your shows and stuff, are they like you just doing stand-up? Like, I know there's things like comedians versus rappers and stuff like that, and some guys do sort of comedy skits and stuff like that. Do you
No, I don't do anything like that. Not that
just
I
good
wouldn't.
old stand-up.
Yeah, classic stand-up.
Yeah.
Classic jokey jokes.
And what sort of room do you prefer? You prefer like a big open ceiling sort of theatre, or you prefer those sort of down sort of?
Ask any comedian in the world, they will want a comedy club. Like, right, you know. So there's a psychology of comedy.
Yeah.
So comedy works better in rooms where it's dark because you can laugh without abandon. You're not self-conscious of people seeing what you're laughing about, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can just let it rip, you know? And then it works better if all the people are facing the same direction.
Right.
So then there's no opportunity for them to talk or whatever, you know? They're not slightly facing, so they can have an aside.
So if it comes around on like a semicircle sort of thing, and they're sort of, they're
or whatever,
all facing
even,
forward.
like, you know, you can have thin rooms. Like our room in Frio is thin, so we just have rows of chairs.
So different to them all sitting at like dining tables and stuff like that, and trying to do it while they're eating a meal. Yeah, right.
Because nothing is more annoying than the clinking and clanking of knives and forks on plates, and then you have waiters walking through.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, like comedy clubs especially have got to make their money somehow, so they've got to have waiters and that. But it's
hard to maintain people's attention and stuff, and they've got those constant distractions, and they only need to miss just a little bit of your joke for it to not be relevant to them, or for them to not sort of get the punchline and stuff.
Yeah, well, depending on your act, yeah, definitely. But then again, like people who are going to comedy clubs are comedy savvy.
Yeah.
So, you know, they understand what the go is, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas if you do some of these more regional shows, it's like pub people, you know, they're just like, it's a novelty. They're not really comedy savvy.
Yeah, right. And have you ever seen people sort of get escorted out? Because
heaps, mate. Heaps.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I think that would be like really extreme to actually like stop the show and.
Well, yeah, I say heaps. It's an exaggeration. Maybe like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
Still
a fair bit.
Yeah, loads. Normally, it's just people get so absolutely legless. You know, they get so drunk that they. But even I went to Dave Chappelle 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a fight in the stands there.
I heard about that. Yeah, what was that about? I heard it was just a couple of bogans punching on. Actually, had nothing to do with his show, or.
I have absolutely no idea, mate. I love Dave Chappelle. I'm absolutely enamored with him. He's a master craftsman.
Yeah.
He's just unbelievable. So I sprung for fairly decent seats.
Yeah, right.
But I was right opposite those dudes, and I could just see them up the top, shirts off.
Really?
Shirts off in true Perth fashion. Just swinging for the fences. Yeah, it was brutal.
Wow.
Some woman was screaming. It was just a goddamn disgrace because it really interrupted the flow of his show.
Yeah, and so did he just stop on stage while they dealt with that and stuff?
Well, the thing is, the irony, the hilarious bit about it was that he was doing a bit about that attack that happened on him in the States. So remember not too long ago, someone bum rushed him on stage.
Really?
Yeah, and the security belted the absolute bejesus out of him. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And
wow.
He had a gun that turned out to be like a novelty knife. It wasn't an actual gun. You pull the trigger and like a switchblade pops out. Yeah. Wow. So it was like it could have turned quite nasty.
Yeah.
So he was just talking about that, and then people start screaming and kerfuffling in the audience. He was like, "What?
What's going on?" Yeah, for sure. Once bitten, twice shy.
Yeah, sure, exactly. I love a good idiom.
Unreal. So, and then what? He managed to flow on after that?
He's Dave Chappelle, man. He rolled, he took it in a stride, had a laugh, did some crowd work, but it's kind of interrupted the flow of the whole thing. So wrapped up a little while after that, which was disappointing, you know, but, he did an hour. That's a comedy show, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Good effort.
So...
But yeah, I've heard that he could just go up on stage like he's rocked up at comedy shows, and they're like, "Oh, Dave, we've got half an hour open. Do you want to?" And he'll just go up on stage and improv for half an hour and just absolutely slay it, you know. But
yeah, well, the thing about Dave Chappelle is that he doesn't need to come up there and say and find half an hour open. Like Dave gets to the club and everyone just leaves the lineup.
Yeah, right.
Dave goes up, I think.
Yeah.
He's that good. We certainly, if he came to Port City, shout out to Dave Chappelle if you're listening. Yeah. Come on down every Wednesday.
Come on down, Dave Chappelle.
You can have all the stage time you want at Port City Comedy.
Yeah, of course. Nah, awesome. And do you have half an hour up your sleeve that you could just, if you found an open spot, you could just go up there and start riffing and...
Yeah, I have about half an hour. You know that half an hour fringe show, which I'm
Yeah.
constantly working on, constantly trying to add new jokes,
Yeah.
constantly trying to work on stuff that doesn't fit into it, and then trying to work it into it because it's like I said, it was for a fringe show, you know. So our fringe show was called the Parent Trap, and our little
Oh, right. I think I
tagline
heard
was
about
like,
that one.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, mate. I appreciate that because we need all the publicity we can get, and it's too late now, though. So anyway, should have done this before Fringe, eh?
Yeah, I know. I sort of got into it a little bit late, and then I was trying to catch a lot of guys while they were busy at Fringe and stuff. So, but now everything's starting to die down here a little bit. So,
Yeah, the post-Fringe blues, but that's okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna take.
Where do people see you now? Is the Port City every Wednesday? And what
Yeah.
other gigs you got going on? Like the Gong Show, is that a regular thing you do?
Yeah, so that's every Thursday in the city. I try to do it as often as possible. Up on all over the shop, mate. I'm an absolute slut for gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're in
Fame whore.
let me check my calendar and get these dates right, actually, because that would be a hilarious disaster if someone. Anyways, but yeah, so Karatha the 10th, 11th.
Yep.
Comedy Lounge 17th and 18th. That's going to be awesome. I'm doing that ECC room on the 14th. I'm doing the Frio Comedy Factory the 9th. I'm always at our gig every Wednesday.
Busy boy.
Yeah, doing a gig up in Scarborough on the 15th. Like I said, I try to get up on stage minimum 3 times a week because there's no substitute for stage time, right?
Yeah, and that helps you get your name out there and get seen and get recognised, and then
Yeah, it's like any
hopefully your name
business, right?
spreads
You know, like you got to have a product to sell, you know, so you got to work on your product.
you are the product. Your
Yeah,
stage
exactly.
material is the product. So
That's the product. So you got to hone the product, you know. You can't be drawing a couple of numbers on a piece of cardboard and trying to sell it as an iPhone, you know. You got to be slick, mate, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And people to keep up to date with your gigs and stuff. You've got your socials. I know you said that you're not super active on the socials, but
yeah, Chris Pucillo on Instagram.
Yeah.
Port City Comedy. Follow us there on Instagram.
All right.
Yeah, Chris Pucillo Comedy on Facebook. I have a New Year's resolution.
Yep.
To try and get better at it, and 2 months later, I've done almost something. So.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I think I've put
Getting
1 or
there.
2 photos. Yeah, I'm gonna do some clips this weekend. I got a bit of time, so yeah.
That's all right. You're doing better than me. My New Year's resolution ended up in a gym membership that I need to cancel because I'm still paying for it.
Oh,
So
yeah. My New Year's going pretty well, man. I'm completely sober. Not that I don't want to. It's not a big harrowing story. I just quit everything. I'm just
yeah, I'm feeling better for it.
slightly more miserable, but slightly healthier.
Yeah.
You know.
And you get a sense that you're doing the right thing and stuff, or
Yeah, I've drank a lot, man. You know, I've done it. I've done drinking.
yeah,
And
right.
I've done other things, you know. So
Yeah.
and I'm running now a lot, so you don't have to have a gym membership. You can hit the park, mate.
For free.
Yeah, for
Yeah, no,
absolutely
that's
free.
what I'm thinking, because just the constant pressure of like, oh, I've got to get down to the gym, my membership's going to waste, you know. So
Yeah, even if you just go there for showers, you know, save on the water bill. You know, just
yeah, get something out of it,
something.
It's killing me.
Go get the free mints at the front desk or something.
Yeah, get everything you can out of it, I don't want to know about going and bloody working out, but all that free stuff sounds alright.
Yeah, you can run anywhere, mate, and all it will cost you is your knees at the age of 50.
Yeah, nice. No, beautiful. Oh, Chris, I might let you go for tonight, mate. Again, thanks heaps for coming in. Again, to the people that are listening, you can keep track of Chris on his socials and find out where his gig's going to be.
Yeah,
But
Chris Pucillo on Instagram.
that's
Check
the one.
it out. Thank you
Beautiful.
so much for having me.
No
boys.
worries. I'll quickly go to a song which I would have already had loaded up if I was a professional, but I'll quickly pull that up now, and then we'll play that, and I'll get you out of here. Let's go to a little bit of Sunday Suit by Tyne James Organ.